I came home late from the job site, boots caked in dried concrete, shoulders burning from 12 straight hours in the sun, and the first thing Sarah says, without even looking up from her laptop, is, "I think we should try a sexless marriage." I stood there holding a takeout bag from the Thai place she liked. Chicken pad CEW, extra broccoli, no peanuts. The kind of thing you pick up when you're still trying. I chuckled like she told a bad joke. "You mean like, tonight?" She looked up then, calm. Seriously, no hint of irony. Just those green eyes staring through me like I was a problem she'd already solved. "No, I mean permanently. Or at least until we've done the inner work to reconnect on a higher level." Something in my chest locked up. I put the bag on the counter, slowly, like it might explode. "What the hell does that even mean?" I asked. My voice was low, but I could feel the tension winding into my neck. Sarah closed the laptop like she was finishing a conference call. "It means I've been doing a lot of thinking and reading. Physical intimacy is a crutch for couples who haven't done the emotional healing." She was using a new voice, almost clinical, like I was some data point in a study. I wiped my hands on my jeans. "We've been married 6 years. You've never once mentioned being unhappy in bed. Not once. And now you want to, neuter the whole thing overnight. It's not about being unhappy. It's about evolution," she said, as if that cleared anything up. "Intimacy should come from a place of emotional sovereignty, not dependency. I'm trying to grow." That word again. Grow. Always used like a weapon, like she was ascending and I was just dead weight she had to drag through the mud. I leaned against the sink, arms crossed. "So, is this a phase? A new book club thing? Or did some influencer tell you this is the new enlightened way to ruin a marriage?" She flinched. Just a flicker. But it was there. I'd hit something. "I've joined a space online," she said carefully. "It's called the Authentic Feminine Collective. They've helped me see patterns, unhealthy masculine structures we've internalized. It's about reclaiming self-love." I rubbed my jaw. It had started to ache. "You mean you're reading radical stuff that tells you I'm the problem because I want my wife to touch me?" She sighed, like I was proving her point. "See? That's exactly what I mean. You hear boundaries and think it's about rejection. It's not. It's about healing. This is about both of us." "Funny," I said. "I don't recall asking for therapy via celibacy." She turned her back to me and started unpacking the takeout like the conversation was over, like she hadn't just gutted our marriage with a TED Talk. I stared at the back of her head, wondering when the hell this shift had started. A month ago? 2? Had I been so buried in deadlines and invoices that I missed the ground sliding out beneath us? "We used to laugh in bed," I said, quieter now. "You used to reach for me first." She didn't answer. "Are you seeing someone?" I asked. Not out of jealousy, out of logic. This kind of pivot didn't come from nowhere. She finally turned, her expression hard. "No. And I shouldn't have to defend my growth because you're uncomfortable with not being the center of everything." And just like that, I saw it. This wasn't about healing. This was about power. About pulling the rug out and watching me scramble. I nodded slowly. "Right? Well, enjoy your growth. I'm gonna go eat dinner somewhere I'm still allowed to feel like a man." I grabbed my keys, my wallet, left the pad CEU untouched on the counter. She didn't say a word as I walked out. The door clicked shut behind me. It sounded like an ending. It's strange how someone can still live in your house, still drink your coffee and sleep under your roof, and yet vanish in plain sight. That's what started happening to Sarah. The first week after her little proposal, I tried to pretend it was temporary, maybe a midlife identity detour. But the signs came quickly, and they weren't soft. First, the wardrobe. Out went the soft sweaters and faded jeans she used to wear on Sundays. In came sharp, angular clothes, boxy blazers, neutral tones, no shape, no softness. It looked like she raided the closet of an angry TED Talk speaker. Every outfit said, "Don't look at me, don't touch me, don't even try to understand me." Then came the language. She started tossing around phrases like she'd been prepping for a dissertation. Emotional labor, patriarchal dynamics, decentering male desire. Performative femininity. Every sentence started sounding like a lecture. Every conversation had a thesis. There was no warmth, no humor, just monologues built from buzzwords. One morning, she was making tea, no more coffee, of course, that was a stimulant rooted in capitalist hustle culture. And I asked her if she wanted to go for a walk like we used to. She blinked at me. I don't perform affection on demand anymore, Mark. You need to understand that. Perform affection? I wasn't asking her to crawl into bed. I just wanted to walk the damn dog. Even the way she looked at me changed. Like I was a relic, a burden, a symbol of some male-dominated system she was trying to escape. The physical withdrawal was complete. She stopped sitting next to me on the couch. Her side of the bed grew wider and colder by the day. She didn't touch me. She didn't even bump into me accidentally. It wasn't distance anymore. It was deliberate. I tried. I really did. I cooked dinner one night, her old favorite, lemon chicken with rosemary. Set the table. Lit a candle. Played that dumb Norah Jones album she used to hum while folding laundry. She came downstairs, took one look at the table and said, "This feels coercive. You're weaponizing romance." I stood there like a guy who just got slapped for offering someone a coat in the rain. "I cooked you dinner, Sarah. That's it." She crossed her arms. "You're trying to reset the dynamic by assuming I owe you gratitude or connection. That's the problem. Men always think their effort should equal access. And that was it." She grabbed a protein bar, walked back upstairs, and left me at the table with the music still playing. I didn't eat. I just sat there, watching the candle burn down, wondering when love started sounding like a hostile manifesto. The worst part? It wasn't a fight. There was no yelling, no name-calling, just silence. Like I wasn't even worth the energy of a good argument. I started sleeping in the guest room after that. She didn't protest, didn't even ask why, just absorbed it like it was another step in her liberation. The more time passed, the more it felt like I was living with a stranger. She spent hours holed up in her office, watching YouTube videos with titles like, "Why Traditional Marriage is Violence," "The Myth of Male Intimacy," "Reclaiming Your Body from the Male Gaze." I walked by once, just to bring in her mail, and heard a voice screaming about how sex in marriage is always rooted in control. Sarah nodded along like it was gospel. I didn't say anything, just left the envelope on her desk and walked out. That's when I knew this wasn't a phase. This was a transformation, not some quirky experiment or lifestyle trend. This was ideological possession. She wasn't my wife anymore. She was becoming someone else. The first time I heard the name Alex, it was whispered during a phone call Sarah thought I couldn't hear. I was walking past the bathroom one night, lights off, just brushing my teeth in the hall, and her voice drifted through the door like static. Soft, reverent, like she was talking to a priest. I told him, just like you said. He didn't take it well, but I stayed calm. I centered myself. Silence, then laughter. Not hers, the voice on the other end. Low, smug, full of knowing. "Yes, I have the guide printed. It helps, especially when he tries to bait me. I think I'm ready for the next step." I didn't confront her. Not that night. I just stood there in the hallway, toothbrush forgotten, and realized I wasn't dealing with just my wife anymore. I was dealing with whoever the hell Alex was, and whatever they were feeding her. Over the next few days, I started watching closer. Sarah's phone was always on silent now. Face down, locked with a passcode I didn't recognize. Her laptop, once casually open on the kitchen island, now lived in her office like a state secret. I wasn't a snoop by nature, but something about the way she guarded her devices made it impossible not to wonder. People don't change their entire worldview overnight without help. And Sarah was being helped. She spent hours in her office watching videos, reading documents, typing responses into chat threads I never saw. One night, she left the door cracked while on a video call. I caught a glimpse of the screen, just long enough to read the banner. The Authentic Feminine Collective, deprogramming the internalized male lens. There were maybe 50 women in the Zoom grid, all muted, all starting with the same fixed, adoring expression at one box, the one labeled Alex. She was mid-speech when I caught it. We must divest from male-centric intimacy. You don't owe your body to anyone, especially not husbands who think love is transactional. Liberation starts with boundaries. Boundaries start with silence. The screen flickered, froze, and then Sarah noticed me. She shut the laptop like it was a porno and hissed, "Don't spy on me, Mark. That's coercive." "I was getting a glass of water," I said flatly. "Didn't realize this was a classified meeting." She stepped out, arms folded, tone defensive. "That's my space, my time. I don't question what you do in your garage or at work." "You mean like earn a living and pay for this roof?" Her eyes narrowed. There it is. Male entitlement. The word dropped like a gavel. No nuance. No middle ground. Just guilt by chromosomes. I didn't respond. Not because I had nothing to say, but because I was beginning to understand. This wasn't personal. Not anymore. This was doctrine. Later that week, while she was at one of her solo retreats, translation, a long drive with no explanation, I sat on the back deck with a beer and looked up at the group, the Authentic Feminine Collective. They had a website, clean, pastel colors, flowery fonts, soothing music that played automatically. But under the fluff were pages of doctrine. Some locked behind paywalls, some just vague enough to sound smart without saying much. Phrases like, sexual abstinence as reclamation. Marital contracts are inherently oppressive. Redistribution of emotional labor begins with boundaries. There is no such thing as a good husband, only domesticated oppressors. Then I found it. A section called Voices of the Movement, featuring testimonials. And there she was, Sarah, or rather, SJ from Ohio. She'd written a glowing review about how the collective had opened her eyes, helped her see the coercion in affection, and take steps to reclaim her feminine space by withdrawing intimacy from patriarchal obligation. My chest tightened as I read it. She called me a patriarchal obligation. 6 years of marriage, of vacations, laughter, birthdays, losses, quiet Sunday mornings, all reduced to a footnote in a cult pamphlet. And Alex wasn't just some YouTube guru. They were a figurehead, a brand, a self-styled liberator who sold books, ran courses, and hosted $300 weekend retreats promising freedom from male emotional dependence. I read testimonials from women who divorced, drained joint accounts, vanished for months. All praised Alex for giving them the tools to escape male validation. Suddenly, everything clicked. The wardrobe, the words, the withdrawal. None of this was random. It was engineered, encouraged, funded, and I was footing the damn bill. I stopped asking questions. Not because I didn't have any, hell, I had 100, but because everyone was answered with cold detachment or another buzzword meant to end the conversation before it started. We weren't just on different pages. We weren't in the same book anymore. The house felt like a library with no heat, quiet, organized, but freezing. Sarah moved through it like a stranger paying rent. Eye contact disappeared. So did anything resembling affection or even basic curiosity about my life. And then the lock started. Her phone, always glued to her hand, got a new passcode. Her laptop had encryption software. She even changed the password to our shared Netflix account, which felt like the pettiest kind of betrayal. One night I asked, "Hey, what happened to the Netflix login?" She didn't even look up from her planner. I needed a space that wasn't being monitored. Monitored? I was watching a documentary about welding. She shrugged. Surveillance is still surveillance, Mark. It's not about what you're watching. It's about power. Everything had turned into a power play. And Sarah? She played like a pro. She claimed she was journaling at all hours. Locked in the office, candles lit, headphones in, tapping away like she was writing a novel. But when I knocked, even lightly, she snapped at me like I'd interrupted a seance. "I'm not available right now. I'm protecting my energetic boundaries." It sounded like she was reading off a damn script. That's when I started to wonder if Alex was more than just a guru with a god complex. I remembered the way she smiled after those calls. Warm in a way I hadn't seen directed at me in months. I remembered how she'd brush her hair before shutting the office door. how she used to do that before we'd go out to dinner. For me. Now, it was for someone else. Maybe not physically, maybe not yet, but emotionally. Someone was behind that door with her. And it wasn't just ideology. One night, around 2 a.m., I heard her laugh. Not the clipped, dry chuckle she gave me these days. This was soft, familiar, real. I got out of bed and crept to the hallway. Her office door was cracked. Just an inch. But it was enough. She was leaning back in her chair, eyes on the screen, typing rapidly, smiling. She looked alive, like the woman I used to know. Then I saw it, her fingers tap out. I don't know who I am anymore, but when I talk to you, I feel seen. She hit enter, paused, bit her lip, then leaned forward, erased the message, and typed something else. Yes, I did what we discussed. He doesn't suspect anything. Yet, I stood there frozen, not angry, not sad, just cold. So damn cold. The next morning, she made herself a smoothie. Didn't offer me any. Didn't say good morning. I watched her blend kale and silence. Who's Alex, really? I asked finally. She didn't flinch. Just kept pouring the drink like it was any other day. A mentor. Someone who helped me reclaim myself. Helped you destroy everything in the process, you mean? She turned then, calm, controlled. We all outgrow something, Mark. Sometimes it's jobs. Sometimes it's people. Sometimes it's expectations that were never ours to begin with. I stepped forward. Are you sleeping with him? She blinked. That question is an act of violence. That's what she said. An act of violence. I asked a yes or no question, Sarah. And I answered. Emotionally manipulative questions designed to provoke shame are violent. I won't participate. And just like that, she grabbed her smoothie and walked out the door. No answer. Just more fog. That night I didn't sleep. I lay in the guest bed, staring at the ceiling, hearing every creak of the house that used to feel like home. I wasn't a man wondering what went wrong anymore. I was a man preparing for what came next. She must have been in a rush. That's the only reason she'd break her new rules. It was a Tuesday morning. She left for a meditation workshop across town. Her term for 4 hours of driving, journaling, and God knows what else. But this time, she forgot to close the lid on her laptop. And she forgot to log out. The screen was glowing on the kitchen counter when I came back from the gym. I stood over it like it was radioactive. Just stared. I wasn't proud of what I did next. But I did it anyway. Her inbox was the first thing I saw. Not work. Not friends. Just a thread of messages from one name, Alex Truwell. Subject lines like, Module 5, Detachment and Power. We are proud of your silence. Don't break, evolve. I opened one. Sarah, you are becoming who you were meant to be. He senses the shift, which means the work is effective. He will resist. That's expected. Do not engage emotionally, it's his last weapon. Stay still. Stay separate. Stay sacred. I clicked another. If he starts asking about money, remind him that joint accounts were designed to entrap. You are entitled to your own liberation fund. Keep diverting small amounts. He will notice too late. My heart didn't just drop. It sank like a body with cinder blocks tied to its ankles. I opened the folder marked Collective Resources. There it was, a 12-step guide. The liberation sequence. Unpairing from male identity and rebuilding the self. It wasn't support. It was a damn manual. Step 1. Sexual withdrawal. Remove physical access immediately. It forces reflection and exposes dependency. Step 4. Emotional disengagement. Respond in neutral tones. Use terms like boundaries and growth. Do not explain. Explanation invites control. Step 6. Financial divestment. Transfer funds slowly. Use wellness justifications. Retreats, therapy, self-care. Do not alert. Do not defend. Step 9. Narrative control. If confronted, accuse him of coercion. Frame privacy as a right, not secrecy. Use language that forces retreat. Step 12. Exit or re-education. You will reach a point of decision, total detachment or restructured engagement. If he resists, choose detachment. If he adapts, he may be partially reformed. This wasn't about helping women. This was an indoctrination process, and Sarah had followed it step by damn step. I dug deeper. My hands were shaking, but my mind was clear now, sharper than it had been in months. There were bank statements, not printed, not paper, but saved PDFs from our joint account. I counted over $8,700 in coaching sessions, monthly circles, digital courses, and one $2,500 wire labeled Truewell Sanctuary Deposit. I didn't know what that meant yet, but I knew one thing. She didn't ask. She used my money, our money, to fund her ideological exodus from the marriage. There were also recordings. Zoom calls are archived in a folder called Integration Meetings. Clicked one. Alex's voice filled the kitchen. He will call you distant. He will say you've changed. Good. Change makes weak men panic. Keep going. The woman you were is gone. Let her rot. I paused the video, walked to the sink, splashed cold water on my face, and realized something terrifying. I wasn't just losing my wife. I was subsidizing her psychological abduction. The final thing I read was a draft email, never sent, just sitting in her drafts like a bullet waiting in the chamber. Alex, he's starting to notice everything. The money, the silence. I don't think I can keep pretending. Part of me feels guilty, but I know guilt is conditioning. I trust you. I just don't want to break him. He's still a good man in some ways. But maybe that's the lie I need to shed. She never sent it, but it was enough. Enough for me to stop asking questions. Enough for me to stop hoping she'd wake up and say this was a mistake. The woman I married would never write that. And the woman who would, she was already gone. The kitchens where we used to talk. Over eggs or leftovers, or a glass of wine when the week had worn us both thin. It was the room where we'd leaned on the counter and talked about our future, about kids, about how we'd always keep things real. Now it was just neutral ground. No warmth, no trust, just a table and a silence that could bruise your ribs. She came home late that Thursday. Her sandals clicked across the floor like she wanted me to hear her coming. Confidence, composed, hair tied back like a woman on a mission. I was already sitting at the table, laptop closed, phone off, just a yellow envelope in front of me. She raised an eyebrow. What's this? You tell me, I said calmly. It's your life's work, apparently. She didn't move to touch it, just stared like it might bite. I know about the liberation sequence. I know about the payments. I know about the retreats and the manuals. I know who Alex is. She exhaled, slow, controlled, then gave me a practiced expression, concern mixed with condescension. You've been spying on me. I shook my head. No, you left the door cracked. I just walked through it. Her face didn't flinch, but her body shifted, defensive, arms folded, posture squared. You had no right. I had every right, I said. You took thousands out of our joint account. You've been following a cult playbook that trains women to emotionally castrate their husbands and call it growth. You think that doesn't give me a right to read your damn doctrine? She leaned against the counter. Cool, unshaken. It's not a cult. It's a support system, and you're proving their point right now. Look at how you're reacting. Possessive, angry, trying to dominate the conversation. You're doing exactly what they said men like you do. I stood slowly, not to tower over her, just to look her in the eye. I've been loyal to you. I've built a life for us. I've stayed through the cold shoulder, the disappearing affection, the ideological garbage, and now the financial betrayal. And I haven't screamed, haven't cursed, haven't threatened. But don't you dare stand there and pretend I'm the one hurting this marriage. She opened her mouth to speak, but I cut her off. You want to accuse me of control? Of emotional dependency? Let's talk about the manipulation you've been fed. How your mentor profits off breaking up marriages and turning women into mouthpieces for their personal therapy sessions. Her voice rose a notch sharper now. You think you're entitled to me, to sex, to emotional compliance. That's the problem with men. You confuse investment with ownership. And you confuse boundaries with cruelty, I snapped. You confuse self-discovery with self-importance. You're not growing, you're erasing. We stood in that kitchen, breathing hard. Two people who used to finish each other's sentences, now just flinging ideology like bricks. Finally, she said, "This is why I can't talk to you. You're too far gone." "No," I said quietly. "You're too far gone. And I finally see that." She hesitated. That hit her. Then, like clockwork, she turned to the manual. "You're projecting. This is classic male fragility. You feel your authority slipping, so you lash out." I laughed, just once. Bitter and clean. "Sarah, I don't want authority over you. I wanted a partnership." You replaced that with a script written by someone who sells healing in PDF form. I picked up the envelope and held it out. "This is everything. Screenshots, transfers, course outlines, and your messages. I've made copies. It's going to my lawyer first thing in the morning." She blinked. "You're divorcing me?" "No," I said. "I'm leaving you. The divorce will come after." Her voice cracked, just the slightest tremor. "You're doing this because I won't sleep with you." I nodded slowly. "No, I'm doing this because I finally understand that you don't want to be here. You just don't have the guts to say it outright. You want a hollow house, a neutered man, and a badge of moral superiority for destroying everything that used to matter." Silence. She looked smaller now. Not physically, just dimmed. I grabbed my keys, took one last look around the kitchen we built together. "I'll be out by next Friday. I'll leave the paperwork on the table." As I opened the door, I turned back. "You wanted a sexless marriage?" I said. "Congratulations. You've got a husbandless one now." Then I walked out. I didn't leave in rage. I left in order. That's the difference between men like me and whatever self-actualized fantasy Sarah was chasing. We don't make scenes. We make moves. The Monday after the confrontation, I took a half-day off work. Called a lawyer a buddy of mine recommended. One of those guys with a face like sandpaper and no tolerance for drama. Told him the truth. No embellishments. He didn't flinch. Just said, "You've got a financial paper trail, a manipulative influence group, and potential joint asset misuse. This won't be cheap, but it'll be clean if you listen." So I listened. First move, financial separation. I opened a new checking account under my name only. Redirected my paycheck. Canceled all autopay bills that were tied to both names. Cut the credit card we shared and reported my half lost. Closed the online access before she could notice. Second move, documentation. Printed copies of every statement, every transaction, every PDF and chat I'd recovered. Labeled them. Highlighted where the money went. Even documented her late-night Zooms and the 12-step manipulation manual. Third move, housing. Rented a one-bedroom above a retired mechanic's shop 15 minutes from the job site. It was no frills, exposed brick, single couch, twin mattress on a steel frame, but it was mine. No politics. No sermons. No Alex. Final move, exit. That Friday, she left for one of her restorative touch therapy weekends. Whatever that meant. Probably a sound bath and lectures on how not to need your husband. I had from noon to 5. I packed fast. Not because I was rushed, but because there wasn't much worth keeping. I left the wedding album. She could keep the memories if they still meant anything to her. I took my tools, my books, a few clothes, and a framed picture of my dad from when I was 16. Shirtless in the garage, holding a wrench, grinning with a missing molar. That's the man I came from. That's the man I'm going back to. I cleaned the kitchen one last time. Wiped the counters. Left the fridge stocked, the blinds closed, the thermostat at 68 because I'm not a damn animal. Then I placed the envelope in the center of the dining table. It had everything. Financials, timelines, notes from my attorney, and a cover letter that simply read, "You wanted a sexless marriage. Here's a husbandless one. I'm reclaiming my peace. Mark." No threats, no insults, just the truth. I locked the front door behind me, dropped the keys in the mailbox slot, and stepped into the late afternoon sun. Felt strange at first, like stepping out of your own skin. like breathing after months in a shallow pool. I sat in my truck for a long time, watching the house from the curb. It looked the same, but I didn't. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I had to apologize for that. The new place was quiet. No scented candles. No judgmental art prints. Just bare walls and the ticking sound of my wristwatch on the nightstand. I made a cup of instant coffee, sat on the floor, and looked out the window at nothing in particular. There was no plan beyond this moment. And that was okay. Sometimes peace doesn't announce itself with fireworks. Sometimes it just shows up in the form of stillness, an empty room, and a man who finally knows what he won't tolerate anymore. She didn't call the first day I left. Didn't text. Didn't email. Not a word. I figured she was sticking to the doctrine, step 9 or whatever chapter encouraged silence as superiority. But on day 3, the cracks started showing. It began with a 10-word text. I see you've made your decision. That's your right. Neutral. Polite. Sterile. I didn't answer. 12 hours later, another ping. We can talk if you want. I'm open to dialogue. No reply. By day 5, the dam broke. Mark, please. I don't know what's happening anymore. Everything feels wrong. I'm sorry. You were right. About all of it. I'm scared. I didn't respond. Not out of cruelty, but because silence, when you've been dismissed long enough, isn't passive. It's power. The rail kicker came on a Wednesday afternoon, around 2 o'clock. I was mid-coffee going over blueprints when my phone lit up with a number I didn't recognize. California area code. I answered, thinking it might be a supplier. Mark Jensen? A voice asked, low and calm. Who's asking? This is Alex, Sarah's mentor. I think we should talk. I stood up and walked to the window, heart pounding. Not out of fear, but disgust. You should really hang up now. Look, Alex said smoothly. Sarah's in a vulnerable place. You've made some rash moves. I understand you're hurting, but dragging the collective into this isn't productive. I almost laughed. You've siphoned money from my household, poisoned my marriage, and coached my wife into emotional abandonment. And now you think you can manage the fallout with a phone call. Mark, Alex said, we're not enemies. You're right, I said. Enemies require mutual respect. You're a leech, a snake in a shawl. And if you or your organization contacts me again, I'll see to it that the IRS, the Attorney General, and any agency with subpoena power has a field day with your books. Silence. Then the line went dead. I blocked the number. 2 days later, Sarah showed up at my office. No makeup, hair loose, plain clothes. Not the curated, empowered armor she'd been wearing the last few months. Just Sarah. Or someone trying to remember how to be her. I stepped outside and met her halfway in the parking lot. Her eyes were red. Can we talk? She asked. I folded my arms. Start walking. You've got 5 minutes. She nodded. We walked toward the side lot. She didn't speak for a while. Then, I reported them. The collective. Alex, I sent your files to a reporter I know. She's doing a piece. Others are coming forward. I stayed quiet. I was wrong, she said. About everything. I let myself be talked into a war that didn't exist. I treated you like an enemy because it made it easier to avoid my own shame. She looked at me, searching. I was weak and I made it look like strength. I thought cutting you out meant healing. But it just meant cutting out the only person who ever stayed. Her voice broke on that last word. I studied her. This wasn't the defiant Sarah from the kitchen. This wasn't the detached, brainwashed mouthpiece. This was someone grieving their own choices. And I'd be lying if I said I felt nothing. But I wasn't about to hand her forgiveness just because she came with tears instead of terms. You want a pat on the back? I asked. No, she whispered. You want to fix it? I want to try, she said. I nodded. Then fix you. And if there's anything worth saving on the other side of that, maybe we'll talk. She swallowed. Hard. I stepped back. I'm not angry, Sarah. Not anymore. But I am done being the one who begs to be seen. She nodded slowly, wiped her eyes, and without asking for a hug, a hand, or a promise, she walked back to her car. It had been 3 weeks since I left the house. 2 weeks since I heard her voice in the parking lot. And in that time, I'd slept better than I had in months. No arguments, no lectures, no digital priests whispering into my marriage through a webcam. Just quiet, coffee in a dented thermos, steel tools lined up like soldiers, the smell of cut pine and cold air in the morning. Peace is ugly sometimes, dirty, lonely, plain, but it's real. And I'd take that over curated chaos any day. Then she showed up one last time. It was a Saturday morning. I was in my apartment trying to fix the busted light above the kitchen sink. She knocked. No call. No warning. She looked different. Not just the clothes, though she was wearing jeans and an old hoodie I remembered from before the awakening. Not just the face, though the makeup was gone and the armor with it. She looked emptied, and somehow more honest because of it. "I'm not here to beg," she said. "Good," I replied. She handed me an envelope. Thick. Inside was a check for $5,000 and a manila folder. I liquidated what was left in the liberation account. That's what Alex told us to call it. What I took from our joint savings. This covers most of it. I opened the folder. Inside, emails, screenshots, a signed statement, and a printed draft of a complaint filed to the Better Business Bureau. Her name was at the bottom. "I'm testifying," she said. "They've ruined more marriages than I can count. I didn't know it when I was in it. But once I stepped out," she paused, shaking her head. "It's a factory for broken homes. Alex doesn't empower women. He manufactures resentment and sells it in modules." I leaned against the doorframe. "What changed?" I asked. Her voice cracked, but she held it. "You did. You didn't fight. You didn't chase. You just left." And it made me realize how easy it was for me to throw away someone steady while clinging to people who sold chaos wrapped in silk words. She looked down at the check. "I know it doesn't fix anything, but it's a start. I just didn't want to disappear without making something right." We stood in silence for a while. Then she said, "If you ever want to talk, not about us, just talk. I'll be around." She turned to leave, and for the first time in months, I saw her walk away without a script in her head, just a woman carrying her own consequences. Later that night, I sat on my tiny couch and stared at the envelope again. I didn't know if I'd ever take her up on that coffee. I didn't know if we'd ever find common ground again. But I did know this. I wasn't the same man she tried to rewrite. I didn't need her to come back to feel like a man again. She'd gone through her storm. I'd walked through mine. And now the dust has settled. I had my name. I had my peace. And for the first time in a long time, I had options. Maybe I'd talk to her again. Maybe I'd meet someone else one day. Or maybe I'd just keep rebuilding in this small, quiet corner of my life with no audience and no ideology breathing down my neck. But one thing was certain. The next move, it'd be mine.